Truth, logic, action, power. It's the GreggHoush Show here on New Revolutionary Radio. From the Leonard School in Malden, Massachusetts, Gregg and company are here to bring a sense of ethics to your news. Whether it's politics, activism, or current events, we always seek to inform and never to deceive. Let's start the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 53 of the GreggHoush Show. Tonight, we do not have Kayla or Mac. Our office has been wiped out by a flu. This is my first full day actually sounding like a human being again. Although I think Kayla just took a little bit too long of a nap this time. But so there's going to be a little less on the current event stuff. We'll talk a little about that. But tonight, joining me is filmmaker Rod Weber. And we will be joined shortly by Vermin Supreme, ever the presidential candidate offering ponies to everyone. So they are working on a film. Rod is doing a documentary on Vermin, basically.
True story.
Yeah, so that is going to be fun stuff. Let's jump right in and talk about some fun stuff here. I would love your opinion on this since you aren't actually keeping up.
Okay.
With some of it, right? Admittedly so, right?
I've been busy.
They've been a little
with
busy.
Other things. So hit me. What do you got?
So Mike Pompeo, former head of the CIA, who is now still not confirmed as head of the State Department, met with Kim Jong-un as if he was head of the State Department for Trump to set up the meeting with Trump, meaning someone who is not the head of our State Department just met with Kim Jong-un. First time we've done anything like that with Kim Jong-un.
So they say.
Exactly. And now Trump might actually meet with Un. The idea right now is Switzerland. And Un would actually travel to it, is what we're hearing. This is really weird to me in one way. Trump is basically an utter trash fire and failure as a human being. Every business he's ever started has gone bankrupt. Just because he has a couple that aren't now doesn't mean they won't be. Everything he started has gone bankrupt. He's bad at business. His negotiating book that everyone loves, he didn't even write. Someone else wrote that. That's not his knowledge.
True.
So, literally, he's just an utter failure as a human being who somehow a bunch of rednecks, thanks to the Russians, voted in. But at the same time, during Trump's presidency, at least part of the North Korea problem could be solved. And that is really weird to me.
It could have been easily Dennis Rodman. I think the thing is,
You think he opened the line of communications?
Get some funky hair? Well, possibly. Sometimes that's all it takes. I mean,
you think Kim Jong-un just wants season tickets to the Lakers or something? What are we talking here?
Well, when you listen to Dennis Rodman talk about it, his whole thing is, we don't talk about politics. He does his whole stuttery thing. It sounds like he's been smoking crack for 20 years, or God knows whatever he's on. But
getting all those rebounds took a lot of elbows to the head.
I think it was more the elbows to the head from Madonna or whoever else he was banging.
Right.
But the thing of it is, having met Trump a couple times myself, and he does not have nice things to say to me. They all know who I am from the 40 Trump rallies I attended. Honestly, it's. As with anything else, it's just kind of favoritism. I'm a friend of you, you're a friend of me. In the case of, the way that Trump seems to run business, and I've seen the stuff behind the scenes, and since I've been arrested at multiple Trump rallies, and I've seen the police reports on how they operate and how they change information with it. And this goes back to every experience I've had with the police. They run it like the mafia.
Definitely.
And so one mafia to another, what's the big deal? What could be better for Trump? What could be better for Kim? I don't see this as being very strange at all. In the sense of the way the two operate, I don't think it's good for the world. But
yeah, so the argument is that both of them see it as a win, and when you see a win-win like that, they're just going to go for it. It's not good for us,
right?
But for them,
it
gives Trump his win that he needs in his presidency, and it gives Un, honestly, a way to maybe start dealing with the fact that everyone in this country is starving to death. Maybe. Just a little lift there. Something. A little rice or something coming in. Some grain. I don't know,
Yeah.
Maybe they're allowed to sell some of that coal again. Who knows, right? But Okay, I could see it that way. They both see a way to win here, and they're both complete and utter pieces of shit. So like they get each other.
Well, I mean, I think that's what Putin and Trump, why they like each other. And honestly, I think the Russia hysteria is overblown. Maybe there's some kind of quote unquote collusion, but I mean, the fact of the matter is the internet, whether you're on Instagram or Vine or whatever it is, it runs on Russian bots. So any of us who've done anything that it has to do with hacktivism or just having
half of the people you've interacted with are Russian bots.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're on the internet, you ought to know that by now. And the idea that the mainstream news is acting like this is a thing is mind-boggling to me. So.
Well, on to Russia then, So in the same day, we hear that, the Senate announces going forward with a vote on Mueller to protect him. So they want to protect the investigation, even though McConnell has said, that it's not a good idea and it's not reaching the floor. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we hear that Rudy Giuliani is joining Trump's legal team. And now he says, quote, for good of country. But his actual explanation was that he is going to negotiate an end to the Mueller investigation with the Mueller investigation. So
an out-of-court settlement, basically.
Yeah, so on one side, we got Giuliani saying they're negotiating now. That's what he's being brought in for. Not that they have started yet, but that's what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, we have the Senate saying, fuck you, McConnell, we are voting for this bill. Mm-hmm. Good times.
Yeah, it's as far as I can tell, every interaction that I've had with any three-letter agency, they all lie, they all operate together and apart. They do what they want to, and I've heard of people talking about, well, Mueller's he's a saint among saints. And I think to myself, like, these are liberals saying that, and I'm like, back in the day, it's
the people that don't remember his run as head of the FBI or anything else.
Well, I mean, he volunteered for Vietnam when it was at a point where everyone had already determined that it was an immoral war.
Yeah,
and he's thinking to himself like, yeah, my granddad probably set up Gulf of Tonkin for. I have no idea.
We're good.
Now I'm
can I go kill
speculating,
people?
But, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Can I go kill people? It's kind of what it seemed like to me.
He wanted to protect, all that iron ore we were actually trying to get out of Vietnam there. That was kind of part of maybe the reason we were there. Because we needed it for our wonderful ships and ammo and planes.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was like they'd kind of just set up this. This fake, democracy. I'm making air quotes.
Yeah.
And spent the rest of the war, trying to prove that their position.
Yeah, I will
was
never
moral.
argue that Mueller was a good man. What I will argue is that given the prosecutorial powers that position that he's currently in has, I would think no one better to hold that position against Trump.
Perhaps.
Not that I like that the position has to exist. B, this human being. But I more dislike Trump being in the damn White House than either of those things at this point. Onto the three-letter agency thing, though. What I want to say there is my total agreement with you. But the thing that always kills me is when I have friends who are activist types who then will watch Law and Order. Because, if you ever watch any of the Law and Orders, every 5 minutes, they are arguing on screen about, oh, well, I know I'm supposed to have a warrant for that, but he fucking did it. And then everyone's cheering for him. Yeah, go get that motherfucker. You're like, everything they do on screen is violating rights, violating due process. And you're like, why are you watching this? If they did that to you, you'd be getting people with guns in the streets. And now you're clapping because they're doing it to that man. Like, what the?
Well, and that's exactly it. So, my first time being raided by the FBI was at the RNC in 2016, and their claim when they came to the actually let me set it up for you. So I was hanging out with as it tends to be for this sort of thing. It was kind of various different ideologies there, but definitely some anarcho leaning folks, and. But then also just kind of some filmmakers that I was with. Yep. And so, I mean, with, ideologies that might align with mine, but my ideology would be, whatever ideology you have is wrong and prove me wrong.
Right.
But so there was a lot of us there. So my friend Dave, who's a producer, filmmaker, he decided to sleep on the couch on the porch. And so when I was basically awoken to him in the bay window with his hands up in the air, as the FBI, Homeland Security, ICE, and HSI is Homeland Security, but and the local Elyria police. It was Elyria is just right outside of Cleveland, and so I was like, oh, holy shit here. And so Jose, who was one of the guys who was sleeping on the floor next to me, he pops up, and we're like, oh shit, like, you know, we're gonna do Dave. I mean, because we're all of the opinion you don't interact with the cops, you know, when something like this happens, and you just, you know, stay inside and wait it out. But the problem was they got Dave, and that was the thing. And so, you know, everyone online that have seen the videos, because my first instinct is get out the GoPro, get the live stream going, and this was before Facebook Live was a thing, so it was like Bamboozer I was using at that stage. But I got them all going, and we caught them as they. Well, okay, so I'm gonna go back a little. So Jose goes out there and he does the whole, you know, want to make it crystal clear that absolutely under no circumstances may you come in here. Then of course. I mean, I'm hearing him say this, and the door kind of creaks open as I'm trying to put my pants on, and they're like, "Drop the pants!" And I'm like, "Oh, please, can I put my pants on? I get what you're doing here." And they're, you know, no, I don't know what's in your pants, you know, et cetera, that sort of thing. And so eventually they go in the house, and they say on camera we could get a warrant for this stuff, and they were referring to some old Bandolero, like World War II style bullets that were used as a decoration. Brittany and Dan, whose place it was that we were staying at, they were in the back room, and we were under the impression that they had gone to work for the day. So we said no one was there, and so that's what then things.
And then that's a lie in their eyes, even though it was a mistake.
It was a mistake, and so that brought things to the next level. But so I mean, you hear because they brought us out onto the porch at this point, and they're grilling us, and then we just hear, "Get out of the fucking bed! Don't make me tell you again!" You know, that kind of, you know, the stuff that they do.
Yep.
And you know, basically we're like, oh, I mean, generally, you know, you're genuinely worried that, you know, your friends are going to get shot. Of course. And but they didn't. Thank whatever mystical, magical unicorn powers, you know, made that happen. But this is the thing: is the way the peanut gallery online is just like, oh, you fucking morons, you know, why would. You know, why would you ever let him in there? And it's like, you know what? If you were ever in this situation and you had a Dave in your life, well, just fuck Dave.
Yeah.
Just, well, no. I mean,
no, of course not.
They got Dave, so of course we're going to help Dave.
So it's time to do something.
Yeah, exactly. So.
I mean, and there's nothing you can do there, because you're right. They literally will say, well, we can get a warrant. Don't make us go get the warrant, or it's going to go 10 times worse. And then they push in anyways.
Well, and this was the whole thing. Their claim was that we had been throwing bottles of urine during the protest, which they said was at there was an event in Public Square, which wasn't really an event. It was just kind of a spontaneous appearance by Alex Jones. And so after they'd done all their harassing, they sent out this middle-aged woman who was definitely a desk jockey. And so she was playing kind of like this motherly figure. And
good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, I finally got her talking and said, well, okay, so, you know, what was it again? They're like, oh, you know, out on Public Square. I'm like, the Alex Jones riot or whatever. It wasn't a riot, but it was like a melee. Just
just a few things happened.
Everyone fell on each other. So yeah. I mean, that's why we came out. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the FBI is telling me that, like, you showed up because of some shit, you know, that Alex Jones said. And then so I went back on Alex Jones's channel. And so what he's saying is that, oh, you wouldn't believe it. You know, the protesters were out there, you know, they were throwing punches, throwing urine. You can't make this shit up, people. And
of course, like, he did.
Yeah, I watched it over and over and over again. I'm like, there's no sign of anything that could even be perceived as urine. It's just, and that was, so you see a hand tap in, actually, because that's, initially, he just says, you know, throwing fists, and it looked like, you know, there was a little bit of that. Then a cop taps him on the shoulder, and like Alex remembers, oh, and urine. I'm like, well, okay, so this is somehow their master plan to tell Alex Jones to say that it was urine. And then so I think it was the New York Daily News, it then said the Alex Jones riot was caused by Rod Webber, also known as the Flower Man, and Vermin Supreme. So then just connecting the dots, Alex Jones says stuff, urine, Rod and Vermin, FBI raid.
Boom.
Boom. That's how it's done.
That is
Anatomy
crazy.
of a raid.
That is absolute crazy. So now, of course, you and Vermin are working on a show together here. You're doing a film, following him around, covering all the stuff that's going on. You want to get him on the phone here and have some talk?
Indeed.
Let's get him going here. We'll have him call in here in a sec. Vermin could not join us in studio, so he's going to call in, and this will be the second time we've ever tried to do a call in. But of course, Vermin does not have a Skype, so we're doing it by old school, good old phone on the microphone here. We'll see how that works out for us.
Indeed. And
We did test it earlier, I mind you.
Well, okay, well, that's good. But in the meantime, I'll just say that because I presume I can set it up.
Absolutely.
So the thing was, the 2016 election for me was kind of this performance art piece. And before Vermin really became involved in it, the thing was I'd spent the year from 2014 to 2015 traveling around the country, giving flowers out to people in public and just filming their reactions, which might sound like, oh, here he comes.
And here he comes. Are you there, Vermin?
Uh-oh.
I'm here.
There we
Thank you.
go. All right. So we were just doing a little setup. Rod was telling us kind of where the film came from, what's going on. So let's let him finish the setup here.
So I was doing this thing, giving out flowers to all the candidates. Jeb Bush took a liking to it. And again, I have no political affiliation. Everyone who has one is a silly person, and that's why I prefer to hang out with men with boots on their heads, promoting free ponies and
False dichotomies.
And yes, exactly. Yeah, well, Vermin's on the phone now. You don't want to hear what I have to say, but I mean, but that's basically it. So I kind of use that as an in the New Hampshire primary. Giving out flowers and acting very nice with the politicians, which got me on stage. I was dubbed Kasich troubadour, ridiculous things like this. I was praying for peace with Jeb Bush and his mom, who just passed away. God bless her soul, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously this led to the road of Trumpism and the 40 rallies that I went to there, and getting beaten up all the time and arrested and thrown over tables and the FBI raids and et cetera, et cetera. And of course, Vermin was just, we kind of fell in together. And at the end of editing my 2016 election film, I said to Vermin, hey man, I got a big folder of videos with your name on it. Should we turn it into a movie? And Vermin said, fuck yeah.
So there we go, Vermin. There's the setup.
That is a setup. Yes, indeed it is. It is indeed. It all started, I guess, New Hampshire primaries, you think, Rod?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the New Hampshire primary has been a beautiful place. It is in my opinion, it is probably the most underutilized political event in the country in terms of opportunities to sort of take it over and do weird things there and actually have them make a big old splash, as it were. Have you ever been to the primaries?
I have, specifically the New Hampshire ones. I've also been to primaries down in Texas, which was a little weird,
Yes,
where I'm originally from.
I imagine it was very different.
Yes, yeah, very, very different.
New Hampshire's like a little Texas. Come on, it could be that different.
A similar group of people show up in terms of on that side.
Absolutely. All the math.
Yeah, I mean, New Hampshire is insane. It draws such a crazy cross-section of people from around the world. All those reporters from every which way, and all the political tourists, and just all the sightseers and gawkers, and then every last damn candidate on the ballot. And, of course, they have dozens on their ballot, and they are bouncing all around that state. And they all have campaign headquarters, and they all have tour buses, and they all have campaign events. And it is just a very simple enough thing to go up there and do things. And the chances are that you will catch the eye of the campaign and or the media. And I've been milking that very simple formula for quite some time. So I was very happy when to see Rod up there in full regalia and strangeness and with his shtick of flowers. And it just it was about time. You see more of that stuff.
I was happy to be welcomed by you. I think actually the first one that ended up in the movie was the Tingsboro rally, which was technically part of the New Hampshire primaries, but Tingsboro is right on the border there.
Yep.
And that was at a Trump rally, and Vermin and I were just trying to figure out what was this thing where they're chanting "Build the wall, build the wall." And so towards the end, they start playing Twisted Sister's "Come On, Feel the Noise," and Vermin decided to turn it into a dance party.
Nice.
And rather than it going the way that we would have hoped, as we're jumping around trying to get them dance, they start chanting "Build the Wall," dancing to the Twisted Sister beat. And
that's amazing. I tell you, Vermin, I don't know if you remember this one, but me and you actually talked together on stage at an event a few years ago, giving Barrett Brown an award while he was sitting in a prison cell that was thrown by Chris Ferrone.
Oh yes, very nice. That was at the Hotheads for 2 Hotheads for Cannabis Activism Awards.
Yep.
Yes, I remember that well. That was actually one of the first, I suppose, legitimate awards that I was ever awarded by my peers for my activities. So that was very special. I remember it. It was Lucite and Solo Sex played, and it was a pretty rockin' time, if I remember correctly.
You definitely gave the best acceptance speech of the night. I have to say I appreciate what you let us know about the dentists. It was good times. I got to tell you, introducing the idea, just the idea of Vermin Supreme to people, everyone always, the very first thing is, of course, the boot. So every time, you come up in conversation, people are like, well, who's that? And then you show them the picture and they just ask, what's with the boot?
Yes. It's a super come on. It is just it's a magnet. One of the many lines that I give about it when the media might ask, one cycle I was just simply telling them the boot is a pile of shit and the media are the flies that buzz around it.
You definitely have to have that thing that gets the conversation started, and I'm sure the boot works quite well.
Oh yes, and for me, it's a signifier of absurdity. When you see a person wearing a rubber boot on their head and they are coming towards you, you know something's up. You know what may be coming your way. Your experience may not be linear.
Yeah, this is not going to be a normal conversation at that point in terms of just meeting someone on the street if you see someone walking up with a boot. I will tell you, the last time I actually saw you in person, I don't think you saw me there, but it was funny because you walked up behind a bunch of cops who were facing all of the protesters and said, "You're surrounded." Yes. That was pretty funny. It's a pretty easy thing to do, and that's why it's very enjoyable.
With love, surrounded with love.
We were at a rally that was called one of the Freedom Rallies. And at the Freedom Rally there, the police were basically keeping all the protesters away from what I will honestly refer to as the Nazis. And somehow we're all standing there on the side that the police want us on. And then we watch as Vermin Supreme just walks up behind the cops and then screams, "You're surrounded," at the cops. It was an event. It was an event.
So you're talking about the one put on by John Medlar. And
yes.
Then, okay, yes. I did a little coverage of that myself. Ferrone actually picked up on my live feed as Medlar was being interviewed by Al Jazeera.
Yep.
And Ferrone used it actually in my 2.5 hour interview. He used it to show this is the anatomy of a mainstream news. The bullshit of here she's walking down. Here's how we get this shot. And,
right.
Medlar is a very interesting individual, kind of young, and actually, the leader of a group of high school kids that put that together.
He was actually
the adult component.
He was at the event in Concord just a few days ago.
Yeah,
and I was there as well.
It was so rainy. The thing that I found very attractive about the Proud Boys is that at every Proud Boy event, somebody inevitably goes up and throws some water on their khaki pants.
Right.
And then they take pictures and they claim that they pissed themselves. And you really would think that they would change the color of their pants for that reason alone.
You would. So, I went to that event and there were about 30 of us on kind of the counter side and about 50 on their side. But The Park Service, since this was at a national park, actually kettled everyone off with the metal barriers almost 200 feet from each other. You couldn't even read the signs from either side where you were. And I'm thinking to myself, And so I just walked out of the kettle of counter-protesters and walked right over to the Proud Boys side, right past the police line, and no one stopped me. And I realized that all of the protesters had just seen the kettle over there and walked into it. None of them had tried to walk over to where the Proud Boys were. The police were not stopping them.
And I'll tell you another thing about that
they kettled themselves.
description you gave of when I came up behind the cops. Once again, there was nothing stopping anybody from going around that police line, but everybody sort of stopped at the police line.
They kettled themselves, right?
They definitely participated in their own kettling, yes.
Yeah, I believe that's, just one of those statements I would love to be very clear to people. If the cops have put you somewhere, look for a way around them. Just, and if they stop you, they stop you. But if they don't, continue. Go and invite all your friends.
Flexibility is very important. I mean, you have to, test the boundaries. You have to test the limits. I remember one time up in New Hampshire, it was an Obama event, and he was at a high school, and there was these two police officers sort of on this little traffic island, and me and 2 or 3 other people, we just took the island, essentially. We just walked up, and then they left, and it was ours, and it was... you just gotta go for it,
Right.
The authority will let you know if they are that uptight and concerned about it.
Right.
They will let you know.
You don't have to fear getting shot that second. You could definitely make a couple more wrong moves in that moment and then get shot. But in that moment, they're gonna let you know to back off.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you're like us in white, right? I mean, at this point,
situational awareness is very critical.
Very
important. You got to know what you're doing in these situations, and you got to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them, and you got to know when to back off. I mean,
right?
But you can tell.
Yeah.
And it's a
Push
rule.
the limits just a
you
little.
Can use that to your advantage.
Well, Vermin and I were out at Standing Rock, and while he did the whole come out with your pants down and your hands up routine with those guys, and that's also in the documentary. But there was a higher possibility of being shot out there. They were not taking any kind of shit. So
they near the end there, after someone actually did get shot, they did a lot of reaching out to a lot of the protesters and tried to calm things down a little, realizing not that I think not that I think that the FBI or the local police actually cared if they shot someone else. They just cared about the media coverage of them shooting someone else. Like, the difference there is that, one is like a good human being and one is a piece of shit, right?
Well, you're talking about Red Fawn Palace with the because it was a gun going off. To my understanding, no one was shot.
Well, shot at, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the idea that so I was talking to a lot of people on the ground there, coordinating some of the supplies, some of the other stuff, trying to get stuff just out of the various lockers that the FBI and police had locked stuff up in, instead of allowing it to get the hand warmers, the gloves, everything. And I tell you, one of the things that happened that was most interesting to me there was the people who were on the ground that I was talking with, trying to see if they could get over there and get some of the stuff and bring it back to Standing Rock, ended up having a conversation where basically the FBI agent they were talking to, who could have released the stuff, said, we just don't want this to look bad for us. Not that he gave a shit about any human lives or anything. He was just thinking about what it looked like in the media.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Humanitarian aid.
Yeah,
this will look good.
Right? So, you guys are working on this film. How long have you actually been working on this? Like, what's the kind of oldest footage? How have you been putting this together?
The oldest footage goes back to, I want to say, it was the 2014 Blender Fest, which is...
there is some archival
There's archival
footage.
There's archival footage, too.
It goes back to 96, I think.
Dates back to 1991.
91?
Ooh.
Okay.
It was actually my first video recorded performance in Ithaca, New York, that I did for cable, and it's a very, very young me for sure.
Still got the beard back then?
Oh yeah. He didn't have the mustache.
It was full on red, and I think the interesting thing about that footage is, essentially, it is my stump speech that I'm presenting.
Yeah.
And it's the same material that I've been using gloriously and successfully for like 30 years plus.
Once it works, right?
It's true. It's like any political stump speech. If it works, it works. And I kept using it, and then it went viral in 2012. But by then, I had been, very well practiced, and it's.
Yeah, he's a friendly fascist, a tyrant you can trust. Let him. Now I'm changing the pronouns, but you know how it all goes.
Of course.
Let me run your. Let me tell you how to run your life.
It's a glorious stick. The kids love it. The kids love that Vermin Supreme thing that I do. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, good stuff.
It is a lot of fun, I got to tell you, the first time I actually met you in person, I looked at you with the boot on, and I could not tell for a good 5 minutes, act, real person, insane, what was this, art? Like, it took me a few minutes. You were just so in character that I just was like, I don't know what's going on here. And I loved it. That was what was so much fun about meeting you the first time, was literally having no idea what was going on for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you. If I can raise that level of confusion, I have certainly done my job.
Right.
And when I was watching this movie, when Rod was showing me some of this footage, it's like I step outside of myself, and it's like, what is the viewer going to think? And it is. I was seeing a lot of, what the fuck? That is some wild shit, man.
Well, there's a lot of stuff I didn't remember. It was just, but there was a camera rolling through. I mean, I think going back to, as far as my beginning, it was 2014 at the Blender Fest. And I just had, archives, hard drives full of, various footage. And I don't remember the day that Vermin put a gigantic plastic bag over his entire body and started talking about it being a zombie. What was it? No, it was an Ebola slash zombie kit.
It was an Ebola joke at the time. Ebola was very big. Ebola was very popular back then. Back in 2014. It was a little bit of a fad, and all the kids were doing it. I think it was like Tide Pods or something. Yeah. But yeah, we had a lot of fun with it.
It was the Tide Pod of that era.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you ran on zombie awareness.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, one of the things we haven't mentioned is, of course, really completely, that you have run for president now 4 times? 3 times?
Well, let's see. 88, 92,
oh, wow.
96, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016.
8
so
times.
I guess that's 8 times.
Yeah.
But now 2020.
2020 coming up, Vermin Supreme 2020. Who is your running partner?
Yeah, all the way, man. It's been growing by leaps and bounds. If I can keep this exponential growth going, there is absolutely no stopping. My ascendancy is inevitable. If you look at the graph right here that I'm holding up, you will see that the stock of America is this line here, and it's going slowly down. And here you can see my stock, and it is slowly rising. And the two will meet, and my prediction, when I will assume the White House is 2036. America will be such a fucking shithole that it's all mine.
Speaking of his ascendance, I think that Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton gave him some gifts there. Jeb Bush with the Killing Baby Hitler comments, and Ben Carson did a secondary degree on that. Yep. And then also recently, a displacement of the time-space continuum happened when Hillary Clinton started talking about ponies in her book. And I think this really brought a lot of Vermin's policies to the public attention.
And when you run in 2020, do you have a platform yet that we can tell our audience? Is there a set of issues that you really want to push?
What, you don't like ponies or something?
That's a great position. Everyone should have a pony.
Yeah, man. No. There's two types of people in this world: those that love pony, and those that are not going to survive the transition times to Ponytopia.
Well, there we go. So basically, the platform is simple. You vote for Vermin Supreme, and whoever runs with, and you get a pony.
Fuck yeah. Oh, sorry.
What we did was
did I ever tell you that once I met Barbara Bush?
No.
Wow.
True story. She was in Boston at a Zig Ziglar sales conference, and my friend David Schlesinger thought it would be funny to buy me a ticket to meet her. And so I was at this reception, and I made this collage, and it was a collage of of her brushing Millie the Teeth's dog with a big giant toothbrush and a human mouth in outer space. And I wrote up this proclamation, which I read to her when I presented her the artwork. And I remember that he equated bad teeth with illiteracy. And then it slowly inducted her into the senior citizen dental militia. And that's when she stopped smiling and got a little weird. And it was a short encounter. It was about 1996, and that's my Barbara Bush story.
Did she accept the art? Were you just showing it, or were you trying to get her to accept the art?
I gave her the art. She accepted the artwork, yes.
Well, you never know. That could have been by her in her deathbed there. It could have been the thing consoling her at the end.
Hopefully the Smithsonian was forced to stuff it somewhere.
She came to Jeb's final rally, which was at a pig place in North Carolina. I want to say Charleston, which Lindsey Graham and she showed up to, and I gave her flowers, and she was so grateful for them.
I gotta say, I dislike pretty much every policy she probably stood for, especially, in how she rose her children, obviously, because I did not like any policy they stood for. But she seems like a type of person that you could just stand in front of and get along with if, you were having a conversation. She seemed like a nice enough person.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing that I always did.
I heard she was evil, pure evil.
Well, I heard so far, all I'm hearing this week is that she was a drunk.
Really?
Pure evil.
Pure evil. Well, I mean, how else do you raise George W. Bush without being pure evil?
Well, there is the conspiracy theory about not Anton LaVey, but who's the other guy?
Aleister Crowley.
Aleister Crowley, yeah.
Yes.
So that Aleister Crowley fathered or sired Barbara Bush with, I don't know, some other occult figure from those times, and that's a whole little thing going around. It's kind of with the QAnon people. There's a lot of folks that are into these various things, and there's a lot of folks that actually think that I'm a Jeb Bush or just Bush family MK Ultra puppet, and so I get a lot of weird trolling saying that
everybody's somebody's MK Ultra puppet.
Yeah, but you can go back with the Bush family all the way back to like Preston double selling both sides, and actually their family double sold in both World War I and World II to both sides.
Indeed.
So I mean their family goes back a little farther than those things. They were evil long before either of those came about.
Well, I'm just saying as far as.
But why do you hate the free market, sir?
I don't know. Ask Hugo Boss.
Oh, damn. I'd love the Russell Crowe thing when we called out Hugo Boss at those fashion awards. That was good times. Good times.
Good times.
If I had a pony for every time Vermin called out Ted Cruz or Chris Christie this time.
Stop calling him Ted. His name is Raphael.
Vermin, can you tell us about some of that stuff?
I always say don't dead name people. I'm sorry, but that's just me.
Good times. So now let's get back to the film a little. Yeah. So we have it's coming up soon, right?
It's a great film. I mean, it covers the whole spirit of the 2016 campaign, beginning to end. Takes us from the primaries to the conventions, all the way through the inauguration, and all sorts of groovy things in between with ponies.
With pony. So when does it premiere? How does it premiere? How do people get a hold of it? When? All that type stuff.
Well, we should be careful.
Well, have you ever heard of a town called Norwood?
I have been there a couple times doing some work for some various rich clients who ended up not paying because, it's Norwood.
Let's go get them.
Well, we should be careful not to call it a premiere. It is a rough cut.
Oh, it's not. Yes. It's a rough cut. It's a sneak preview of a rough cut.
Yes.
So a little invite-only event for some friends.
It's fine to invite anyone that you want on Facebook and all of that stuff. But the film itself is not completed. It was because I do art, and I'm a friend of Dave Tree, who used to have a Sweet Leaf Gallery in Watertown. He invited me to be a part of the new gallery, which is called the Long Haul Gallery, which is located at the Space Center. From hanging out there at one of the shows, it came up that I'd been working on this project, and they said, well, you absolutely have to show the film. And So I'd say it's 99% done. It's just
A little more editing to do.
It's one of those things. Yeah, I don't want to make too much fanfare out of people showing up to what I still view as being band practice.
But let me ask you this: as a filmmaker, and having known many, and I'm featured in a few documentaries. Like I've learned one thing about the filmmakers I know, that it's always 99%. You never feel it's done. You just end up agreeing with the distributor that it's time to finally put it out, not that it's done.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
so yeah, it's real close. Vermin and I and a bunch of the people close to the project, we had to sit down a very private screening on Sunday, and we got very good reviews.
So when you finish editing this thing,
can I point out at this moment that there's a lot of footage from a lot of sources, and we've had a lot of amazing contributors and contributions. Other people have been. I mean, it's just amazing. And Rod has put together a whole lot of footage from a whole lot of sources, and it's been wonderful.
So Steve Ondrich, who directed Who Is Vermin Supreme and Outsider Odyssey, he shot a lot of the footage because he was there to promote his film, but that became incorporated into this. Also, I want to thank Steve Sweetleaf and InLeague Press. They did a ton of stuff at the conventions. And there's all the old stuff from Flux, and Vermin would probably tell you better about the archival stuff, but we've got old friends like Darren Garnick, who's a reporter from the Boston Globe who covered Vermin since 1996. He's nice. I just interviewed him 2 nights ago, and man, he's he knows more about Vermin than Vermin, I think. So some of the stories he was pulling
those
out
reporters have memories, man. Watch what you say to them.
It's true. So
yeah, I met Darren Garnick in 1996, I think it was. I think it was during a Bob Dole torchlight
and
rally.
You were putting a flag in a bucket of soap. Yeah, he told me the story. Right?
That was before the torch thing was really out of hand, I guess.
Yeah.
So, we're, of course, going to tell people about where it is. We'll share it on some of the social media and whatnot. But, once it's ready to go, how are my fans going to watch this thing?
We're going to have to get a distributor first. In the meantime, you just have to get your asses down to Norwood. And it's the Norwood Space Center. And it's at 83 Morse Street in Norwood. And you can come on down May 2nd, which is a Wednesday, and it should be showing at 6 p.m. And Vermin
6
will be...
p.m. Okay, 6 p.m. That's earlier than I thought it was. But okay.
There you go. We're telling Vermin when his show is. Make sure to get that info to Robert, our engineer here. He'll get that up on our website. We'll get it shared out to everyone.
And we have...
and also, of course, you might want to watch the Who Is Vermin Supreme movie documentary.
By Steve.
That's the prequel.
Yep. We're thinking of calling this one "This Is Vermin Supreme." So maybe if you in the comments section, you can vote for names you might like.
Nice.
Vermin's been throwing out "Zero Fucks" as a potential title.
I don't think it's taken.
True.
Yeah.
Do you, asking about distributor stuff? Do you guys have any opinions on specific distributors that you don't wanna do it with? Like anyone you hate or
Weinstein?
Well. Very good. The Weinstein Effect subreddit is one of my favorite places to read these days.
I think it's probably inappropriate to talk about the people that we're in contact with, but so I did spend the past 6 months in Los Angeles and flying back out here for the pony protest and various things. And so we do have a salesperson at this point. And
Perfect.
Actually, I was just on the phone with him last night, and he was, this is news to Vermin too. He spoke to
breaking news.
Two distributors yesterday who were interested. I'm not going to name them at the moment. I'll tell you later, Vermin.
Okay. No, interest is good. I like it.
But so things are moving along, and so I can't really answer your question other than
it'll be there soon, and you'll let us know so we can let them know.
But no, the real point is that people like this motherfucker. Oh, bounce the mic.
Oh yeah, no.
Luckily, that's only in our ears.
It's larger than life because these movies it's all these zany, crazy guy boothead things doing all these fucking insane things in the real world. It's it's a thing.
So and you got to remember that in Steve's film, Steve Ondrich did a brilliant job with Who Is Vermin Supreme. I love his film. I don't think I'll ever be able to live up to that. But in this one, Vermin is kind of taken it to another level by he's actually he met with Sean Astin from Lord of the Rings and challenged him to a battle with Narnia. Then at which point Sean asked, and he did the refusal to begin with, and then people hipped him to who Vermin was, and then he approached Vermin and said, I want to read for you. Read some lines for some of this stuff, which is that's in the documentary. We got Billy Bob Thornton and Run DMC,
Nice.
and Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma is in it. So
there's a lot of fun in this documentary.
Oh yeah, it's not just Chris Christie saying weird stuff like "I hate ponies," although that's in there too. We play "Born to Run" to mock him. We got him trapped in a bus. He was afraid to come off the bus because
True story. He insisted that unless the parking lot was cleared of us having too much fun, he was not coming off the bus.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I got to ask Vermin. So you are obviously just it historically easily provable. You are running in 2020. So
absolutely. I mean, I'm not declared, of course, because I still, you still want to have your exploratory committee.
Of course.
There's different rules for that than other committees. So yeah, for sure.
Is anyone
right now, as we speak? I am seeking wish me luck. I'm seeking the Libertarian nomination for Kansas City Attorney General.
Yeah,
I'm
running for governor
this weekend. I found out that apparently Kansas has no requirements whatsoever to be on the ballot, and except for money. So there you go.
Yeah. I was out at Westboro Baptist Church for a week running for governor at the house across there.
The Rainbow House right across the street.
No, that's the other one. That's the one. So there's two
catty
sides.
Corner there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the gray one. Vermin actually set me up with the folks there, and I would go out there and live stream and troll them and say that I was running for governor because
I spent 3 years living in Kansas City, right in.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, in Overland Park and the Nexa and Shawnee Mission, that whole area, just outside.
Do you know anybody in Wichita?
A lot of people.
Ooh.
Really? Could you send them to the Libertarian Convention this Saturday? I need more delegates to support my candidacy.
I will reach out. I love it.
There you go.
There we go. Politics happening in front of you.
Yes.
In front of you, politics happening right now, people. Let's do this. And this is how politics happens.
It's back
people
to what I said at the beginning.
Just gotta get going.
That's what I said at the beginning. Am I right? Whether it's the FBI, Robert Mueller, or the Bush family, there's all connections.
Every bit of it. Let's go.
Except we're doing it on mic, and they're not.
Right, yeah. We're telling the world why we play
Total transparency here.
So beyond running in 2020, beyond the film, there's all kinds of other fun stuff going on in the world today, Vermin. Any big topics you care to chime in on? The Mueller investigation.
Oh, shoot.
Kim Jong-un.
I don't. I'm too meta. I'm too meta. I don't go for details like that unless I'm riffing on something, But I'll tell you this: I am going down to the American Renaissance conference sponsored by American Renaissance Magazine, the Jared Taylor Gregg.
Nice. When is this?
That is on the 28th of April. A large crew of anti-fascists led by J.M. Carrico.
Nice.
Put past the hat, and
that's an important detail, Vermin.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I think you got to lead with that because if you're saying that you're
on the right side,
because if you're going to support Jared Taylor, people are going to be weirded out.
That's a whole different thing.
Right, Jared Taylor's not flying me down there. No, the anti-fascists are bringing me down there.
Nice.
And I went to Dick's Sporting's goods store, and I brought myself one of those striped referee shirts, and I've got a whistle. And I'm making flags, so I will have flags to throw down at various what I perceive to be foul plays.
I love it. Oh, this is great. More people should go and see this.
It should be pretty funny. Hopefully, we'll be live streaming some of it.
I was about to say, who's on camera on that one?
Yeah, so that's going to be very exciting. So I'll be coming, fresh from that will be the May 2nd show. And when I come to May 2nd, I'm going to be pretty pumped up with a tale to tell of fighting fascism in Tennessee.
Well, I'm definitely going to try and make that one. I want to see the film.
And I should actually point out that the May 2nd is it's part of a larger thing called Art Week. And so Dave Tree and myself, I believe starting April 28th, I want to say, is when the whole thing kicks off. And so you'll be able to see the paintings and the other artwork going on there. Just Forgot to plug. Oh, and VerminSupremeFilm.com. That's
VerminSupremeFilm.com, if everyone didn't hear that. And we'll make sure to put that on all the social media and everything else so everyone can see it.
And can I take a moment to plug my book?
Please do.
It's called I, Pony, Blueprint for a New America. And it's available on online bookstores or the original source. But it's a look at the future long after my presidency, after zombie power fuels the nation. The secret dental police have set up checkpoints every few 100 yards, and everybody has their pony. So it's what life is like, and I guess it's a story of unintended consequences. And so it's a warning from the people of the future to you, the people of the present, their past, that Vermin Supreme is a madman and must be stopped. Thank you.
Yep, and we've got a lot of the artists who do the artwork are going to be in the documentary, a little commentary. So we got Venantius Pinto, Nina Paley, who does those wacky animations. You might have seen that horse gif. And, of course, John Hagenbrenner, who's did the artwork for the Church of the Subgenius. He gave one of my favorite interviews in that book. And I did some of the artwork myself, but a lot of great artwork in there as well.
Oh, yes. Seth Tabachman from World War III Comics. It was real great to write this book because I was able to reach out to artists that I had been fans of for years and years and years, but would never in a million years have asked them to do art for my campaign. But I felt the book was a legitimate reason to do so, and they totally came through. It was
That is great. Yeah, that feeling when you know that you could probably get them to help, but it's not the right moment. I'm there with you on that one.
Oh, yeah.
And I was able to get some slots in by total fan artists that had come across my feed or that I had found, people who did homages and memes, and I was able to bring some of those artists in, and so it was really fun.
I tell you, one of my favorite moments when you were, scheduled to come on the show was the various people that, one, knew who you were, so they were like, oh my God, that's awesome. But then the ones who didn't, and you got to say, all right, Google Vermin Supreme, and you got to watch them Google it all and start to get a feel for it and see that they were like, oh, who is this guy? What? That really, what the fuck kind of moment. I love that moment.
Yes. It brings me great joy to be able to bring people great joy and confusion. It's very true. It's a blessing. It's a random toss of the DNA, and I just got very lucky at finding a very funny and wacky thing that people seem to really respond to. And I think the secret to my success: never stop doing it. That's
wonderful. All. That's a good moment to kind of call it here. I mean, we're about an hour in. I think we've plugged everything we can plug, talked about everything we can talk about, unless you guys have anything else you want to say.
Thank you to Chuck White, Lance Salemo, and Dave Tree for putting together the show. The one in Norwood, that is.
Yep, on May 2nd.
At
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
All right, Vermin.
Together, we will ride our ponies into a zombie-powered future. Thank you. My name is Vermin Supreme, and I approve this message.
And that's our show. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GreggHoush Show and on Instagram at GreggHoush. If you like what you've heard and want to be a part of it, check out patreon.com/GreggHoush Show. In exchange for funding our programming, you gain access to exclusive content such as uncut editions of our podcast. We have new episodes every Thursday night. We hope you listen in. The GreggHoush Show was created by GreggHoush, executive produced by co-host Eric Gaures, and co-hosted by Kayla Avery. Other contributors include producer and writer Anna Jeffrey, co-host producer David McGuffin, and writer-engineer Robert Tortora. Theme music for this show was produced and recorded by Geneva de Colbert. Our interns include co-host Casey McLaughlin, writer-engineer Alec Greeny, writer Maddie LoCicero, and associate producer, writer, and announcer William Kennedy. You're listening to New Revolutionary Radio, your call to action.